take your cell phones and just turn the ringer off. We greatly appreciate that. Very happy to tell you that we have two candidates here tonight, Cassandra Littlejohn and Bob Aramilli. Okay. The moderator is going to be Ann Harriman. We'll begin with a 5-minute apiece for each candidate to tell you who they are, where they're from, and what their vision is for the city. And then we'll go right into questions, and we'll have 2 minutes from each candidate on each question. We'll alternate who gets a question. I want to just turn this over to Ann Harriman. Thank you very much again.
Okay, well, thanks again for Tom for organising this, and to our candidates for joining us. As Tom mentioned, we're going to alternate the questions. We're going to start with a 5-minute introduction. The questions came either through emails or cards that were written on this evening. So if you would like to, Cassandra, if you would like to start.
Thank you so much, Tom and Ann, and to the Medlock Bridge community. Good evening, everyone. My name is Cassandra Littlejohn, and I was born right here in Georgia, about 100 miles southwest of the city of Atlanta. In 1983, I independently moved here to Atlanta, where I began very quickly getting involved in the community. From that time, I became a small business owner. I worked in corporate America. I worked for nonprofit organizations. But nothing satisfied me more than my work in the community. Everything from homeless shelters to working in food banks. Whatever I found my hands to do, I did it, because I feel that we're all placed here on earth to do something good. In 1983, when I got here, both parents were deceased at that time. I had no real guidance, except that somewhere deep in my heart, I knew that God had placed me here simply to make a difference. At that time, so that was 1983. I started a family shortly after I was married and had children. I was fortunate enough to stay home with my now adult children. And because of that, I was able to be the PTSA president, in which I thoroughly enjoyed. That took me to a whole nother level of involvement. It taught me a lot about how education supports the foundation of the value in our community. And I worked hard as PTA and PTSA president to ensure that not only was I doing my part as a parent, but I was also making sure that I was a voice for those parents who couldn't be there with their children because they had to work. And so, having done that, that was in my early years. In 2004, I was honored to be elected to the DeKalb County School Board, being the first African American elected to the at-large District 9 post. I was proud of that, because during that time, DeKalb was a very divided, racially divided, north-south divided. Although we were changing demographically, the city was in itself, the county in itself was just divided. So for me to have been elected spoke volume to the trust that the community across the board had provided me. And I wanted to make sure that I earned that trust every single day that I sat at the table and represented the community there. And I also was elected back-to-back to be chair of the Board of Education in DeKalb, which again spoke to my leadership. And I'm going to move out just a little bit because I feel comfortable here, but something's making me nervous. But I believe that I'm amongst community. So I want to feel that. I want you to get to know me, and that's why I've decided to introduce myself with this timeline of who I am, what I've done over the span of my life. So that was 2004. 2009, my husband, Kevin, who's with me today, took a job in San Antonio, Texas, which took us away from Georgia. Immediately after moving to San Antonio, once again, I knew that one of the things that I was called to do was make a difference in my community. So immediately I found organizations and opportunities in which I could get involved. And I did that. I worked with several different community organizations there and became a huge part of the community's history. And some argue that I have a lot of support even today from that community. Yes, I do, because I gained a great deal of friendships and relationships that will last me a lifetime. 2020, my husband and I came back to Georgia and bought our home here in Johns Creek. I was excited, and I still am excited. I couldn't wait to get involved. And just like I've done most of my life, I wasted no time finding what my hands could do to make a difference in my community, because I believe that's what we're all placed here to do, to make a difference. And I appreciate the opportunity tonight for you to hear my heart and why I'm running for Johns Creek City Council Post 3. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and those of you who are so concerned about Johns Creek. Me too. I moved into this neighborhood, not this neighborhood, Amersey Lakes, in April of 2017, just short of 5 years. I voted 26 times. I care. I'm vested. Not voting is not for me. Where does this attitude come from? I want to let you know, in my previous life, I was flying combat jets for 14 years. Now this teaches not only teamwork, dedication, and a sense of duty, but also you need to think faster than the jet, adapt. You learn the mantra. You find a hole, you fix it, or you'll fall in it. To give you a couple of real life examples, a few years ago, a very smart kid who had 36 on 36 in ACT, he was on the way to become a physician, he had 8-year scholarship, and this kid lands up in jail. Why? He thought it was okay to ride with 3 kids who were high on drugs. Sure enough, they were pulled over when they ran a red light, they landed in jail. Now this was smart people taking stupid decisions. That was a big hole which I felt needed to be fixed. In response, I started this foundation called I Rose Up. It's a youth mentoring foundation where me and others were showing people better alternatives, fine options to these youngsters. As we speak, 80 kids have already gone through this process. This fall, one kid even joined Harvard University. You know, all holes are not man-made or volunteer or created by one's shortcomings. In 2009, when the housing crisis happened, many people lost jobs. But job or no job, there are certain needs which need to be met, like healthcare. Now, I'm associated with medical fraternity, so I organized several healthcare camps to dispense medical care for these people who needed it badly. True, this was not happening in this was not happening in Johns Creek, but in Forsyth and Gwinnett. Now here's my view. If your neighbor's house is on fire, can you sleep in peace? I found a hole, I fixed it. I also serve. I serve as a second lieutenant in the US Air Force Auxiliary. I served as my HOA president during the COVID year when there were no takers because there was a lawsuit pending. I also served Johns Creek for the past 8 months on the iHeart Healthcare Committee, which is tasked with making Johns Creek a great health environment for both businesses and residents. Right? I cut my teeth when I came to USA. When I adapted, became a software engineer, started working for Fortune 500 companies, like Marriott, Bank of America, Lockheed Martin. Now these companies have their own culture and their own ethics. They do teach very imperceptibly, but they change you. There, after that, I transitioned to a small business. I started operating my wife's multi-location medical practices. Now, as somebody who runs medical practices or a small businessman, you're not a hole-in-one. You're not an expert only in finance. You're not an expert only in accounts. You wear all hats. You are managing employees, you're managing patients, you're managing customer service. You wear many hats. Now this is the reason why I feel that there are so many aspects which I bring to the table. Also, when we moved to this place, we were already, my son was 4 years old, today he's 31 years old, an attorney. I bring to the table all these skills so that when John Street calls for me to serve, I'm ready. Thank you.
Bob, since you're standing, we'll start with you on the questions. So the first question is related to traffic, and they're actually two very similar. I'm going to read them both. What are your thoughts about the various proposals to address traffic congestion at the intersection of State Bridge and Medlock Bridge? For example, a through you. Specifically, do you support the through you concept? If so, have you thought about the impact to Johns Creek residents when they simply want to turn left at night to pick up a pizza? And the second one related to that, the number one complaint of Johns Creek residents is the traffic. It can take over 10 minutes to cross 141 and State Bridge Road. The City Council seems to like a Michigan U, but we all know that isn't the answer and not really going to relieve that intersection. If you are on the council, what will you do to fix that and other traffic issues?
Fantastic. I thought I'll get boxes of briefs questions. No, not simple stuff like that. Okay, great question. I am a proponent of CFI, continuous flow intersections, and also Michigan U-turns. Basically, whenever a traffic is turning left or right, it is cutting through the straight flowing traffic. I do agree, whether you're picking up a pizza or crossing the road just to wish somebody, this is an attendant effort, but this creates so much better traffic that we will not have this congestion which we are so used to. Also, I'm not the kind of person who just goes back and says this city council didn't do this or that. This city council, past city councils were so responsible, they planned way ahead. Even though the traffic was growing, even though we were hit by COVID, they went ahead and restriped the whole place. And that actually improved the traffic congestion. I live right on State Bridge Road, and I'm seeing a marked difference. Coming to the second question, there are so many arrows on the quiver. I'll just take one. We have 54% of the traffic coming through Johns Creek is originated either from Cumming or Peachtree Corners. But my point is, if you don't regulate the traffic, which is mostly coming from north, we will have this. Therefore, as part of SPLOST program, we are widening the roads west of Jones Bridge, McGinnis Ferry intersection. That should take care of a lot of congestion which happens in Jones Bridge all the way to the south. And that should also mitigate the traffic congestion on 141. As such, these are measures which are meant to mitigate. We are growing. We will not eliminate this congestion.
Okay, thank you. Sandra, would you like me to read the questions again? Yes. What are your thoughts about the various proposals to address traffic congestion at the intersection of State Bridge and Medlock Bridge? For example, the through you. Specifically, do you support the through you concept? If so, have you thought about the impact to Johns Creek residents when they simply want to turn left at night to pick up a pizza? And then the second part was the number one complaint of Johns Creek residents is the traffic. It can take over 10 minutes to cross 141 and State Bridge Road. The City Council seems to like the Michigan U, but we all know it isn't the answer and is not really going to relieve that intersection. If you're on the council, what will you do to fix that and other traffic issues?
Thank you. That's a good question and a very complicated question because Johns Creek has grown. And with that growth comes traffic, more people, more cars, and with new businesses. We know that is going to require some changes to our infrastructure. One of the things I appreciate about our city hall, our staff, is that we have on staff a paid person that gets to look at all of our traffic, how we control our lights, and so I think we have to really look at the fact that none of us want to be stuck in traffic. I know I don't. It took us from, we live on Barnwell, coming up Metlock today, the traffic during that rush hour is getting thicker and thicker, and what is typically a short drive took us much longer. And so I do think that we need to look at how we address that, and I know that the city already has plans in which to address the Matlock Bridge. As far as 141, we are surrounded by peer cities and counties, Forsyth, Alpharetta, Roswell, and regardless of what we do in Johns Creek, we're going to be impacted by the traffic that's flowing through and around us. And so I'm not the expert in the matter, but I do think that we need to continue to look at how do we control our traffic congestion, how do we relieve and make paths so that we're all in a more convenient situation when it comes to just being able to get to point 1 and point 3. And with the turning, hopefully our paid staff person can assist us with that, because the one thing that I hate is when I'm needing to just get down the road, I have to sit at a traffic light for 3 minutes. And so hopefully we can work together to resolve some of those issues. Thank you.
Sandra, stay. I'm gonna flip back to you. We're flip-flopping. And I will get it wrong at some point. All right, the next one is related to housing. A 3-part question. Describe what you believe affordable housing means in Johns Creek and what price point you believe is affordable. Do you want to see more affordable housing in Johns Creek? And if so, exactly how would you go about making that happen? Thank you,
Anne. Affordable housing, I think, is just where we're going. We have people who work and provide services in our city who cannot afford to live in our city. We have children who go off to college whose parents, I'm sure, I'm a mother, we came back to Georgia because we love Georgia, but also because we have 2 children and grandchildren here. I would love to be able to live closer to my children. Oftentimes, kids don't move back into the city in which they grew up in because they can't afford it as young adults. So I think we owe it to our economy, we owe it to our community here to provide housing that people can afford to live in. What does that look like? We have to look at that. I think as soon as we hear affordable housing, we think low-income housing, we think Section 8, but it doesn't have to look like that. It can look like whatever Johns Creek creates it to be, something unique, something fitted for us, something that we can invite where we pride ourselves on Emory healthcare system being here. But everybody working in Emory isn't a doctor or someone who can afford a 5,000 square foot home. I have friends who are leaving Country Club of the South and looking to downsize because they're empty nesters and they're having to move to neighboring cities. And so I think if we're going to sustain ourselves for years to come and not just have a bunch of houses on the market and not have people who could be sowing their tax dollars into our city moving elsewhere, then we need to look at what type of affordable housing and what is that medium that would be comfortable for everyone, where we can invite and welcome people, whomever they are, to live here in Johns Creek.
Okay, Bob, would you like me to read the question again? So it's a 3-part question. Describe what you believe affordable housing means in Johns Creek and what price point you believe is affordable. Do you want to see more affordable housing in Johns Creek? And if so, exactly how would you go about making that happen?
Thank you. I think I'm getting harder questions than student leadership at Johns Creek. Anyway, that's just let's go with the comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan dictates where affordable housing can be laid out, right? Even if you go further behind, when we started in 2006 as a city, the city was already built up about 85% of the place. We do have Section 8 housing down south in Barnwell, near Barnwell, but at this point, to increase any more, let me address the first part. The affordable housing is extremely relative now, because this is one of the most affluent cities. What is relative, what is affordable will be much different than what is affordable down, let's say, in Chambly or other cities. Categorically, I don't think, besides the town center, I don't foresee anywhere else I wouldn't say affordable housing, multi-unit housing or high-density housing, roughly around 15, which is, as the town center calls for, 15 units per acre, maximum stretch it to about 30 units per acre. As far as why I don't want this, it's because it places a lot of burden on existing infrastructure. You know, our fire can respond in 3 minutes. Now imagine if you add more population to it, this will increase to about 6 or 9 minutes or 12 minutes. Similarly, hospitals, again, we have a beautiful hospital, but if you overload it, again, we'll have consequences. And when you talk about stormwater, traffic congestion, these are problems which are badly exacerbated when you add cars and many, many cars to this our road situation. Thank you.
Okay, stay there, Bob. Coming back to you. So this is a long, complicated question, I'm sorry. In the context of both the community and economic development of the city of Johns Creek, please elaborate on how you will encourage growth and community involvement through actions that reinforce support for small business owners, a free market, parental oversight in schools, and the principles of freedom upon which America was founded. Liberty and independence with no government coercion, domination, and control. So I think we'll go back to the middle bit. How will you encourage growth and community involvement?
Okay, that's fair. I think let's look at the town center area, Shea Crag area or Technology Park area. We have a state farm which is 55 acres and it's lying vacant. There's a lot of land there which could be used for real estate development. Currently we are about 18% vacancy in our commercial real estate market. What can we do? See, should the town center come in the northeast part of Johns Creek, the south part, where near Barnwell, all the shopping centers there, they will feel the oxygen being sucked out from there. So we will go there as a city, talk about investing some dollars to make that area a lot more livable and appreciable. Let's talk about easing the traffic congestion, making some roundabouts, adding sidewalks, talking to the realtors, real estate people who own the malls, saying you need to upgrade, otherwise you are in serious competition, all your dollars are going northeast. So you need to come here and fix your strip malls. This is one aspect which I would like to do. And economic director who just resigned from our office, he plays a very key role because he is the person who actually recruits new businesses, maintains the existing businesses, allows them to expand themselves like Alcon. So this man is a very important person. Along with him, we have Chamber of Commerce, which helps out. And we also have Convention and Visitors Bureau, which is actively promoting this city. So once the city is so actively promoted, you find people coming to the city, so will the business along with the people. Thank you.
Let me read that again, Cassandra. In the context of both community and economic development of the city of Johns Creek, please elaborate on how you will encourage growth and community involvement through actions that reinforce support for small business owners, a free market, parental oversight in schools, and the principles of freedom upon which America was founded.
Thank you so much. So I think we can all agree that small business truly is the backbone of any community. Here in Johns Creek, as I've been talking with community businesses, the one thing that I'm hearing is that they don't feel valued. They don't feel that they have the support in our city in order to thrive. And so I think one of the things that we have to do is value our small businesses. We have to provide the resources so that small businesses can thrive, so that they can continue to stay in the city. When you drive around the city and you look at all of these retail shops and all of these vacancies where small businesses were and now they're no longer there, if we were really true to ourselves and valuing them as a partner in our community, then perhaps we would see less vacancies in our city. So providing necessary resources so that the small business owners, sometimes when you're starting off a business, you just have a wonderful desire to provide a service, but you may not have the skills in which to provide that service. And that's why the partnership with the chamber and other organizations can come in and walk alongside and mentor these businesses, making sure that the community knows that these businesses are here. You know, we can use our website, we can use other means in which we promote our small businesses here in Johns Creek and have fun ways. I know one of the things that I've appreciated in other cities that we've done is we've done a lot of dine-arounds. We've done things as a community where it put us all in position where we supported those local businesses. And I'm telling you guys, before I actually started seeking out small businesses, I thought we didn't have a lot of things here in Johns Creek, but I'm here to tell you we have some wonderful businesses and new businesses and existing businesses, and we need to figure out how we're going to support them.
Cassandra, coming back to you. Cassandra, sorry, it's up and down, non-stop, sorry. Please elaborate on your history of residence in the Johns Creek area, specifically how long have you lived in Johns Creek, the area of your service to the Johns Creek community that you are most proud of, how you have contributed to building trust with all members of the Johns Creek community, and how your life demonstrates the high level of ethical and moral integrity expected of a representative of the Johns Creek community.
Thank you so much, Ann. Well, my husband and I, as I mentioned in my opening, we moved here March 2020 back to Georgia. I'm a native Georgian. We moved in the midst of COVID. Immediately, I reached out to get involved virtually where I could get involved. We were in the midst of the 2020 elections, and I was a part of that here in the city of Johns Creek. Also, I immediately joined my homeowner association. Was the first person to actually do our neighborhood yard sale. I didn't waste time because I never do. I don't think we have to. I don't think involvement in one's community and love for where one decides to plant myself is based on how long I've been here. My contribution to my community overall has been my entire adult life. So moving here to Johns Creek in 2020, where it may have been a short time, yes, we got immediately involved where we could get involved. I probably have attended more city council, and whether in person or online, than the average person who's been living here all of their lives. So where I could find to get involved, yes, I did that. I'm a member of Leadership Johns Creek. Not Leadership Johns, I'm a member of that too. But Leadership Johns Creek, yes, I'm a member of Leadership Johns Creek. And not because I had to, but because I wanted to get involved, to learn more about Johns Creek. And so I feel that my investment here in our city is of value, and I plan to continue to serve.
Okay, Bob. Please elaborate on your history of residence in the Johns Creek area, specifically how long have you lived in Johns Creek, the area of your service to Johns Creek community that you are most proud. How have you contributed to building trust with all members of the Johns Creek community, and how your life demonstrates the high level of ethical and moral integrity expected of a